Our next speaker is the Reverend Dwight Welch. Dwight is the United Campus Ministries pastor at Montana State University. United Campus Ministries is a ecumenical organization of that combines the members and congregations of several denominations. I've lost track over the years. I myself am a UCM alum from my days at MSU Billings. And one of the programs that has fallen under the UCM umbrella is, over the last few years, is the MSU Billings Autism Club, which is, as far as we know, one of the few clubs at the collegiate level in the state of Montana for autistic and neurodivergent individuals. So Dwight, if you'll come on up. Thanks.
I was going to say that both Jed and Mitch have been UCM alum, and especially when I first arrived in Billings, they were some of my guides as I tried to figure out the campus at MSU Billings. So Autism Club started, and I appreciate the introduction. I was hired by 7 denominations, 23 churches in Billings to provide student ministry at MSUB. I had no idea what it would look like, but it kind of became clear quickly because I had a student through Disability Services who's on the spectrum who said, I've been at college for 3 years and I don't have any friends. And that was the germ, or the genesis, essentially, for the Autism Club. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I thought it would be support, a support organization. But a lot of the students do have professional. They have those outside supports. What they needed was social time, friends, pizza, movies, games, a place to be on a Friday night. So that's been the primary role that we've played. But we tried to do some educational things. So we did the thing with Michael McCurry, who was an autistic comedian who came to our campus. This fall, we're doing an event called, we're working with the Center for Inclusive Education. And it's called, they're doing a conference on neurodiversity at MSUB on September 19th and 20th. It's free. If you're an educator or a counselor and need continuing education, great. And especially Fridays emphasizing that. Saturday emphasizes families as well as children. But our college students are going to also present because there are certain challenges to succeed well in college while being on the spectrum. Now, I mention all this to say that, of course, one of the challenges for a lot of autistic adults is just to be recognized, because people think of autism as a children's kind of thing. But obviously children with autism become adults with autism. This is how it works. This is what we want, right? We want them to be elderly people with autism, right? This is the goal. And so I get to be working with college students for this. Now I say all of this, I'm going off a while, but if I have time, is that I'm on the autism spectrum. But, and so in some ways it was a wonderful way to for me to provide the kind of support I didn't have necessarily when I was in college in that same way. Now, I'll mention one other quick thing about that. So, you may have heard statements from our Secretary of Health and Human Services that indicate, Robert F. Kennedy, who indicates that he's puzzled why we have the autism numbers that we have. But I can tell you, generally speaking, that there's not been an increase of folks with autism in this country. There's been an increase of folks who've been diagnosed. And that's a different thing. So in 1981, I was 9 years old and sent to the counselor's office. They're trying to figure out what's going on in school with me. I happened to have the diagnostic report. Everything screamed autism. But not in 1981, it's not going to get the diagnosis. It got the diagnosis of ADHD. which works. I also have ADHD. But the point is, it didn't capture everything. The DSM in '94 is when they created the Asperger's and autism. So as an adult, I was diagnosed with Asperger's. And the only reason I mentioned this is this. And this is for folks who are thinking about their children or themselves, if they've thought about diagnosis. I failed a lot in social interactions throughout my childhood and adult life. And I spent decades beating myself up. Why am I failing? Why am I not succeeding? Why can't I get this right? And the moment I got the diagnosis, it was like, freedom. Like, I don't have to beat myself up anymore, you know? And there's people like me. And I can learn to anticipate what social situations work for me or don't work for me. So, and most of the folks I've talked to, especially got diagnosed as adults, it has proved to be a liberation. And so I was not given any favors that I wasn't diagnosed in 1981. I might have had supports that never existed. So we should be grateful for the autism numbers we have now, because it indicates students are getting the support. And our hope at MSUB is that support doesn't end when you're 18, because there's challenges of dating and jobs and health insurance and getting through school and all the things that we all have to worry about as adults. Autistic folks have to worry about as well, and trying to provide the means of success in these areas. This is a lifelong project to be done. So the only last thing I'll mention is we are working through the Center for Inclusive Education to expand the programming beyond the campus. So right now I work with primarily autistic college students, but we are trying to develop programs that will help families and kids and other underserved populations, especially in Eastern Montana, to get their support. So look to our Facebook page, look to the MSUB Center for Inclusive Education. More programs are on the way, but if you're around, show up on September 19th. And thank you so much, Jed, for the invitation to be a part of this. Thank you.